We meet Lady Margaret, just so it's based in her house, so a house in Perthshire in Ballandine. She lives there with John, her husband, and of course Annie and Joseph. And at the start, it's kind of just an everyday, like we meet them at breakfast. But the change is that Joseph is asked to join Margaret and John at breakfast for the first time. So you're kind of like dropped into a slice of their life, but you're also immediately dropped into like something's different. So like this feels like routine, they say good morning, they sit down, and then like quite quickly into the beginning of the play, you're like, whoa, this is new, something's new. And then from then it just kind of unravels.
Yeah, and for Annie Thompson, this is the same scene where she's serving them breakfast at the breakfast table. And yeah, they're all just having a normal chat, everyday life, just as what Rachel said, and then it quickly changes.
There's an age difference between Margaret and John, but of the time period, she's like 25. She should have had kids by now, really. So in that age, she's old in terms of, because of lifespan and obviously like life expectancy of mothers and kids. She's at a place where she wants kids, but it's like the stakes are higher because of her age, which is something I actually learned during like research and stuff. So her main want is to start having children. And that's another storyline with why John can't give her that.
I think for Annie, it's quite plain and simple compared to Margaret. She's recently started at the Wedderburn household, and she's just wanting to get her job done. Obviously, this is a play with only 4 of us, but if it was sort of a bigger thing, you know, there'd probably be loads of maids, you know, all of them, but Annie's only the one upstairs serving. So for her, she just wanted to get her job done and get back to her other jobs, all of her other 101 other jobs that she's got to do around the house. So yeah, at the start, that's where her head's at. The first script we got for our auditions was like many drafts ago. And sort of the first 2 weeks of rehearsals were with all of us and May and Orla, and we were sat down and we were actually going through the script, cutting things, putting things in. You know, it was a very sort of R&D, like research and development sort of first sort of week, which was very interesting because we were sort of saying that we've never had that before, and you don't get that a lot as well, you know, with rehearsal processes. So yeah, it was an honour as well, really, to have your input in a new play.
It was really collaborative, like the whole time, to be fair, but like knowing that the play wasn't finished yet, just like set the company in such a like, there was such glue between everyone, because like it wasn't just going into a room and kind of like going, okay, how are we going to figure out this play? It was like we were all like integral to actually figuring out the final play. And like, yeah, I think just having the writer in the room, like May was just incredible. He was so open. Like same with Orla, like so open to ideas and like just
up for trying
things and like always wanting to know people's opinions, like especially, you know, characters that were saying those particular lines, open to discussion. Whole scenes have been cut, whole scenes have been added. And I think also what was so interesting about the anti-racism training, we had a session with Nikita, and there was a lot about self-compassion and a kind of whole conversation about that, and that influenced May's writing of Joseph towards the end of the play.
And Annie.
Annie, yeah, for sure. And it was about like just going home, rewriting that, coming in and going, does this work? And it was really, really collaborative, and an honour for sure.
Yeah. When we were doing these scenes, we worked them together, and like we had our own inputs, and you know, we felt like it was a team, and we were all glued together, which helped a lot.
So we're playing real people. So that was obviously like, okay, a big research task, but there wasn't really anything at all. Like, obviously there's a lot of like, you know, 18th century women stuff, but again, not particular to Scotland, which was very different to England, like households, everything really, like depending on what was going on. But then I was like, okay, there's nothing that I can like base this on, obviously because of the time period as well, but like, how can I like relate to her kind of thing? I had to like her, because Rachel doesn't like her. I would never, I mean, I feel there's an empathy for her, but I think particularly at the beginning of the play, I wouldn't want to know this woman, you know, that kind of thing. And you sort of have to fall in love with them somehow because you're playing them, and you need to really get inside of their head, and like, not even just their head, but like you need to be in their heart. And I think like it was just a case of making her human. I didn't have any particular references, which I have done before. Like, you know, other characters I've played, I've gone, oh, they're a bit like this. And actually, I've not done that. I've just kind of found her as who she is. And I think because they are from a different time, it's easy to think they're really far away from us. But it's like, no, you know, she's just a young woman like me, and like
just with different wants,
and different circumstances, and kind of simplifying it actually. But yeah, I mean, they're very well written, so
yes, it helps.
It helps. They've got big arcs.
Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, all 4 of them have really big arcs, which is very rare for a play to have as well. But for me, I would say it's very similar. Like, unfortunately, like women in history, there's not a lot. Which I kind of discovered. We all kind of discovered. There's a wee bit on Joseph Knight, but that was kind of it. And we also don't even know what happened to them after the play or anything. They sort of just disappear. Which I then kind of found a bit exciting as well. It was sort of like, you know, I could give them like my own take on it. And, you know, see where that takes me. And Orla was happy with that, playing her the way I wanted to play her. Again, giving her a voice that was my voice. And just having fun with her. You know, she's a great wee character. And I feel like I probably of all the characters, maybe not Joseph, but could relate to her more than probably you and Matt could on yours, being a young Scottish woman. So yeah, so it was exciting really, because we had a lot of freedom to just be like, there we go. And obviously great writing and great directing, which helped as well.
You know, it's not a long time. It's kind of standard a lot of the time, 4 weeks rehearsal. But I think because we had that week as well of kind of figuring out the script, we really didn't have long.
No.
So it was like, try it. And she's very open to just, you know, seeing what happens and then going, I like that.
Yeah.
And then it just sticks. We're like, brilliant. And then if down the line it then doesn't work, you know, she's like, actually,
up for changing it again.
She's so open and just incredible and so supportive and like willing to listen to everyone's ideas.
Yeah.
And include them. And then work her magic around that idea.
Yeah.
You know, like it was so like, it's such a conversation. And yeah, like we kind of had the beginning of the play and what we were going to be doing like on the first day or something of getting up. And
this is probably another thing as well. Like she sort of blocked the play.
Yeah.
And then we went back on it and started getting into detail. So, and I quite liked that because it was sort of like you didn't feel panicked, like, oh my gosh, but we've not done the second half of the play. Like you've just not really gone into detail. So we had it. And then that's when we started, you know, talking and getting into conversations, trying other ideas, just flinging stuff out there and, you know, seeing what happens. And the thing she does
was we ran it up to the point that we'd got to every morning, every day. So then by the time we got to like the first dress, we'd actually run the show so much.
So many times.
Like we knew where we were, like, and she'd said once, I can't remember if it was to me or to everybody, but just that it's so that it's so in our bodies. Like the play, it's like we will not worry about where we're going or where we're standing or that kind of thing, because that's just like autopilot. Like we've done that.
Yeah, and that's so true.
Going there, and that was
because
so
now
helpful.
I could probably do it.
You
with
do
my
it with
eyes
your
closed.
Yeah, that is such a helpful technique.
Very helpful.
Yeah. It was quite tiring at the time.
Yeah, we were like, again?
This morning we're going to do it again.
Yes, okay.
But that was like, that was great.
There's this line in the play, which is yours, and it's these walls have ears. And it's sort of this going off this thing of, you know, everybody knows what everybody is at all times. You can hear everything, you know, everything that's going on. And to have that, even though it's a massive house, like to have that sort of, you know, claustrophobia and, you know, that you can't really have your own space for anyone was something Orla wanted to explore. I don't even think we explored it without doing that. I think she was very set with.
That was it.
That was it. We were all on at all times.
She came in with that idea.
She did, and it's sort of stuck. And the only time that we go off really is at the end, and that's about it. But I think it's appropriate for this play, definitely, that we are all on at all times. And even though we're not physically on, sitting at the side, you know, as I said, we know what's going on. You know what's going on in the house. You can't escape it. So I think with the anti-racism training, it's something that NTS have just started to do for everybody. So it wasn't particularly for the show, but, you know, good on them, you know, it should be done for everyone coming into the building. But yeah, it took a sort of effect on me for this, especially this last scene, and it's sort of about how Annie, instead of feeling sorry for Joseph, it's sort of going back to that self-compassion. It's going, right, I was wrong to think this, I was wrong to feel sorry for you, so this is what I'm going to do now. And putting it on you rather than putting it on, you know, the other person, putting it on Joseph Knight, and taking responsibility for the things that you've done in life, and not sitting in it, just recognising you've done it and what steps you're going to do to change that.
I think overall the anti-racism training, like, well, it's crucial. I think on a kind of basic level, it was having a common understanding of like terms, different terms that, you know, have been kind of thrown around recently, and it's important that people know what they actually mean.
Yes.
Things like white privilege, white fragility, like even just racism itself. There's a whole kind of spectrum, and
being an anti-racist, not just being not racist.
That was key, I think, was learning about allyship and understanding what that means in terms of not just being not racist, actually being anti-racist, being active on situations which will come up and have come up, and not kind of putting it on that person of colour to speak up, and actually saying, I'll take the reins here and I'll do this for you because I'm also on your side. I'm not just, you know, and it's things like that I think were crucial, because it's like in a play like this, things kind of did come up that it was important for people to speak up.
No, just that it was important for me, Rachel and Matt to speak up, so that it wasn't left to Omar to have to, you know, take it on himself. And it's going back to the allyship, which was so important in the room, and I learned so much.
I learned so much. I wish that day was either longer, or I just wish we had more sessions.
I think so. It was only a day, but it was, you know, it could have been a week, could have been 2 weeks.
And learning just about the history, like the history of slavery as well, and like just dates, and you know, May was chipping in a lot because he's like, you know, his knowledge of history is just like so vast. And it was like definitely conversation and discussion, and it was just really important. And I think it also opened up like a confidence to feel like we could have those conversations throughout the play. And
it was a brave space. He kept talking about not being a safe space, but a brave space. So that's going back to, you know, speaking up, not feeling like you can't ask certain questions, and being bold, and just, you know, setting up that, which would just help so much. Because when I first, you know, read it and things, you know, of course there's a part of you where is a bit nervous. You don't want to say the wrong thing, but actually people need to say, in brave spaces and safe spaces, need to say what they think, so that you learn, because it is all about learning. And as long as everyone's comfortable with that, then it's a good space to be in. Well, I think for me it's probably just Joseph Knight. I mean, me, Annie and Margaret have a wee thing going on, but I wouldn't say that's...
In another world, they would be best pals.
They'd be best pals.
They would be.
But I think, you know, it's a love story as well as everything else, you know, and Annie and Joseph, they fall in love, even though they risk everything to do that. And I think throughout you sort of see them slowly but surely falling in love with each other. So probably key aspects for them would be, you know, I showed Joseph my singing and dancing, and how that for me is how I keep happy and how I keep positive and get through life. And he says to me that in Jamaica, singing and dancing, laughter even, all were forbidden, you know. And that's a big shock to Annie, but he says, but we used to tell stories, and that was our singing and laughing and dancing. And there's a scene when I'm holding a raft, and he tells me these stories that he sort of, you know, he takes me to another world. So I've shown him my singing and dancing, he shows me his stories, and that's just sort of coming together, you know, showing each other what we love and what keeps us happy. And that sort of unravels from there. And then as the story unravels and we fall in love, we end up having, I'm pregnant, and that's when it sort of blows up. That's when Joseph Knight is like, I want my freedom, goes to John, it says to him, you know, you once promised me that I could go free. And I think from there it just sort of spirals.
Yeah.
So I'd say those are the key moments for us.
And for me, I think just what I've said before about how Margaret's, main objective is to have kids. She speaks a lot about duty. I'll be happy when we've done our duty and had our children. And so her key relationship is with John. Like, she needs him in order to do that. It's interesting because the way that May's written it is actually like other key relationships affect other key relationships. It's everybody's intertwined. So actually, Joseph and John's key relationship affects me and mine really, because there's like an envy there and there's like a confusion as to why John, it kind of kickstarts my questioning as to why he doesn't really want to give me any love and attention, because I see the love and attention he's given to Joseph. And there's other reasons, like there's, John has his very dark reasons as to why he can't do that. But yeah, that's kind of my main one, because of what I want to have kids and I can't get it. Well, it's important to speak about history, of course, but I think Scottish history, in particular, like the story about Joseph Knight, like it's an empowering story, and then it's an empowering story for Black people, and I think it's like so many people. It's not taught. This story isn't taught in schools. Like, we know that there's a very like narrow, kind of one-sided education that is kind of changing bit by bit, but in the Western world, especially, in the UK. Like, it's not diverse enough and it's not truthful enough, I don't think. And it's biased and it's not fair. So I think, like, more of these stories should be told, but especially for someone like Joseph Knight, who really changed history in a time that felt like that could have been impossible to do. And I think just, a lot of the themes in the play are relevant now. And it's important to, like, provoke an audience to think what has changed and what hasn't changed, and how can I change, and what are my actual genuine views on this, and what questions need to be asked, and it's
what questions I need to ask myself.
Yeah, all of that, and I think that's crucial, and I think as well just to have like another medium of history that's not just like in textbooks. That, like, in terms of schools, education and stuff as well, I think that's crucial. Like,
and to also show that, Scotland aren't innocent in slave history at all. I think for so long, everyone's pretended that they sort of have been. And this sort of, to put their hands up and say that they're not, which is a long journey ahead though, I don't think we're nearly anywhere near where we should be.
No.
But this is the sort of start. This is sort of, hopefully now more plays get written, and more people feel obliged to go and look into history and have a wee look, and we're also writing some history as well, because there's not stuff about Annie Thompson, there's not stuff about Margaret for women in history as well. So we're giving them voices.